Namaskar and a very warm welcome to all of you in this episode. In the last few episodes, we have been talking about different styles of parenting and then how do we really support our children to doing better in their future life or developing more on their strengths than necessarily talking always about the weaknesses they might be having, which we all have. So I was thinking to continue on the same, but in between there was a podcast which was broadcast and released by Ms Neha Chauhan, the CEO and the founder of Aerobay, and she had asked me a few questions some time back, and this episode was released by her very recently, and it was of course watched by many number of people, and many of them have appreciated the content and the questions and the answers given, but then some of them definitely have been little reserved on some issues. One or two of them who spoke to me directly asked me a question that all through the episode I was trying to convey to everyone that our children are doing very well. They are good children. They're absolutely positive in every aspect. Whereas they say that what we are seeing around in the world or in the classrooms, in schools or in colleges, the behavior of the children has changed. They are not that much focused as they used to be once upon a time, and something like that. So they said that what makes you to believe that much? Do you have any research with you and all that? I said the research may not be there as far as I am concerned, but when it comes to reading books and the research or many things which have been talked about by many experts, I still stand by my statement of saying that children even of the day are equally competent and respectful, confident, wanting to do something more in their life, and at times it comes out to be a little more than what we were able to do in our time. And reason may be that opportunities on the day are more than what these were used to be way back in that time. So I would still suggest and ask everyone to see it differently, that the children are really doing well. They're trying to do very well. I mean, there are regions because of which they may not be able to do well at all, and those regions are to be seen in spite of really being unhappy or disheartened or sometimes angry on the children. Because remember, anger always shuts the door on learning, whereas the empathy would open door to learning. Remember, anger would always be a problem, whereas empathy would always be a lot of help to all of us. So before I talk further on parenting or continuing on what I was speaking to you the last time, let me talk to or discuss a little bit about children who underachieve during their school days or college days or later on. And those underachievers may not necessarily be really the underachievers, but there would have been some reasons and causes for that. Because what happens when a child is not able to complete the work on time, or the child is not able to solve a problem in time, we tend to really tag the child with the sort of blame that, or we start blaming the child by saying that the child is not trying, the child is lazy, the child is not willing to do the work self and all that. We tend to forget, and at times we may not be aware of it, that there may be some psychological problems to the child. There may be some physiological problems to the child. And, in our country, particularly I'm talking of India, that most of the parents are not yet aware and are not ready to accept certain things which can be, or certain problems which the children would have developed during the growing up age. So we have got to be a little careful, and there can be lot many things. So like there can be anxiety disorder to a child because of some reason. We would not have been able to identify it, or we may not be responsible for that ourselves. But yes, that anxiety disorder can come from anywhere. And the child might be suffering because of that autism problem. The child might be having some dyslexia problem. The child might be having some ADHD problem. And when I use this ADHD problem, I mean, yes, there are many children, and they say that around 10% of the kids in today's time really suffer because of that. And we tend to ignore this particular problem with which the children are suffering, and we start pushing them, bullying them, scolding them, or blaming them everything they do wrong. I mean, they don't do it deliberately. It's the problem which is to be handled by the parents, by the teachers, and by the experts. And sometimes, of course, things are changing now. Our parents are becoming very aware, the schools have become very aware, and people are seeking the advice from outside, in spite of getting really angry on children. See, sometimes I'll just give you one example here, that if a child doesn't perform that well as the parents are expecting or the teachers are expecting him or her to do, so what they try, they push the child a little more to trying to do better. And they would provide some help from their side. I mean, the parents would be doing the child's work, or maybe because of anxiety, the parents themselves are a little angry and anxious both, and they're forcing their help on to the children when they are not really wanting to have that help from them. And while doing so, though intentions are very pious, we are wanting to help the child, but then in spite of helping the child, we are really harming the child. So as I said in the beginning, that in spite of being angry with something the child has really done or not done well, we should be a little empathetic towards the child, and we must try to understand what would have been the issue the child might be feeling. So when I was talking about anxiety, I mean, there are 2-3 words which go really together, and they seem to be interchangeable, but might be different as well. See, sometimes our children are nervous. Sometimes our children are worrying also. And sometimes, rather many times nowadays, are anxious as well. So when it comes to nervousness, I try to understand it, that when do I become nervous? Like if I do something which I have not done before, so there will be a little bit of nervousness during that time. Or if I'm meeting somebody who is much more intelligent than what I am, so there is always a possibility child might feel that a little nervousness, and the kind of symptoms you have, the lack of sleep, walking fast, having some sweating and all that, I mean, that you can very easily make it out. When it comes to worrying, I mean, we worry about certain things, whether I would do well in my examination, or I would be successful in completing this task in time or not. So that kind of worry also there. And I've read somewhere that worries can be of 2 types, a positive worry as well as poisonous worry. Now somebody was asking, how can worry be positive? As we always say, that stress up to some extent can be helpful to making progress in our life. Similarly, when I talk of positive worry, in positive worry is actually the worries which are within our control. Like I have to complete my homework, I have to reach the school on time, I have to really help my father or my mother in this particular task. So I have to do it. This is within my control. So I'm worried to completing my task. That's there, but I can do it. So that sort of worry would reinforce me to trying to complete that work. So that worry is not a problem to me if I am worried to complete my task, until and unless I allow this task to become so big and unmanageable that it changes my worry into anxiousness. When I was talking about poisonous worry, that is a worry which is not in my control. Like the weather will change, it will rain very heavily, and I may not really travel from one place to another place. What will be the climate tomorrow if the things are outside in the open? Is it going to be very hot? Is it going to be very cold, or is it going to rain? So that worry, I mean, rain or no rain is not in my hands. It's not in my control. So such kind of worries are poisonous worries, these, and are unnecessarily adding to our problem. So we shouldn't worry about those things. We should get rid of such worries on which we do not have any control. What would happen to this world after 10 years, 20 years, we shouldn't really worry too much about that. Of course, we should be careful of taking certain steps which will help us in not really creating or doing something which will definitely make us to fall in a situation where things are very difficult for us. So anxiety, of course, is always dangerous. It would not at all help do better, because people say that anxiety is the worst enemy of curiosity oblique creativity. So we should not be allowing our children anxious, and we should not create situation for our children to be anxious. So what Dr. Amin and Dr. Faye have spoken about, they have given almost 8-9 tips to the parents to really undertake to making their children do better. And the first and foremost thing they say is that develop a habit of, they've talked a lot about Maslow's pyramid, and in Maslow's pyramid is actually these are the achievements and needs fulfilled from the base to the top. So it's a pyramid, and you would see that first of all the basic needs, the base of the pyramid is like you need safety, you need food, you need security, and then you go beyond that. Then you go towards empathy, self-esteem, then you go towards self-actualization. So these are the things. I mean, you can't go to self-actualization without having any safety or the food or the health and all that. In some cases, of course, there are children who are not from rich family background or middle class, but they still do very well despite the fact they may not be having sufficient food to eat or safe home to stay, still self-actualize, but that number comes out to be very, very less. So we must try that our children gain confidence in going from one level to another level. Like the children of age 3 or 4, they need a lot of safety and the food, the health, the security. But then if we expect our children to be at the top now only at the age of 3 or so, I mean, it doesn't happen that way. You can't make children to meditate at the age or self-actualize themselves at the age of 3. So that would happen a little later when the children have already been step by step to these different levels of the pyramid which has been shown to you. So, but they say that the most important, out of 9 what they have spoken, I'll take only one, where they say that, see, whenever you get angry on your child, there are issues with that. So anger should be avoided as much as possible as far as the parents are concerned and the teachers are concerned, because anger would always make the things worst. We should be empathetic, try to, because what would happen, your anger would add to the anxiety of many of the children. And I told you that anxiety shuts the door of learning. It doesn't open the door. It's only empathy which opens the door. We should be careful about it. And whenever you come to know that your child is not very motivated, is not doing the work, I am suggesting you, please do not be furious, but become curious to know why my child is not doing it. The moment you will become furious, which we all tend to become, we should be curious. And the moment we are curious to try to know why our child is not doing that well, things will automatically change. And you would be able to make the child responsible and accountable for self. You take accountability for yourself, for your task, but don't take the responsibility for the task which is to be accomplished and completed by the child. I think if we'll take care of these small things, we would be able to make our children or raise our children as happy, as healthy as possible, and they would be able to tackle all the problems which they will be facing in their life. I'm once again suggesting and with a lot of humility conveying that our kids are good. They are as good as anybody in the past was. As I told before, rather better than that. So try helping them to remain that and become better, better and better. And they'll make this world a better place for everyone around. So thank you very much. God bless us all. Let's meet in the next episode. Thank you.